Welcome, everyone. So we have a nice round table for you tonight. Four of our friends and new friends. And Philip Siracusa, we've been together multiple times, and glad to have you on. Laura, it's good to see you again. Laura Moorman. Kathrine Sorilos, very nice to meet you. And Karl Supp, very nice to meet your acquaintance. Laura,
Nice to
take
meet
it
you.
away.
If you guys want to go around, I guess starting with Laura and go around, introduce yourselves. If you have anything to promote it, and what type of psychic abilities you have. I think that one of the points of this is for people who aren't really aware of it, to find out more information about it. So,
and how to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
My name's Laura Moorman, and I am the founder of the Citizen Observers for UFO Transparency, which is a project I'm working on with some other friends of mine. We want to get people in touch with their legislators to make sure that they understand that this is a serious issue. And we want to help people take action. And hopefully we'll be rolling out a really cool website, hopefully by June. Keeps getting pushed back a little bit, but it'll be a cool portal where you'll be able to interact with your legislators and send them messages and let them know that we care about this. So the other part of it, of what you asked, was what kind of experiencer am I? I mostly, as far as psychic ability, it's mostly dream-based. That's been my biggest. I've gotten a lot of really cool messages from the other side or my guides or whatever, ever since I was a little kid. So kind of like a prophetic dream aspect to how I experience it. But I'm also interested in reincarnation. I'm interested in karma and how the paranormal, all aspects of the paranormal, interact with us through spiritual means. So I think I answered everything.
Thank you. Philip.
My name is Philip Siracusa. I'm the owner of the infamous Haunted Horsefly Chronicles home in Easton, Pennsylvania, which I live in now, the Spooks. I'm a radio host, Horsefly Chronicles Radio. I'm a psychic medium who connects to the other side of people that have crossed over. And I've had many encounters, and it's my job as a messenger to teach the world that not only are we not alone in the universe, but we share multiple dimensions simultaneously.
I can tell you, with what walks around our house every day, we know we're not alone. Karl, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm. Let's see. Going back to when I was about 5, I had an out-of-body experience after getting scarlet fever, and actually met my grandmother, who had passed away in 1937. And ever since that time, and growing up in the house back in Illinois, it was experiencing communications, and very much like Laura, communicated through dreams that were very vivid, and I've had those continuing out throughout my life, but also doing medium type work where there's been a lot of communication back and forth, and some people have reached out to me and actually helped definitely one spirit cross, which was quite emotional. So it's been quite a journey, and kind of carried that into other research I'm doing right now, which is actually surrounding the Sasquatch peoples. And it's been quite interesting, because I think that they recognize those abilities as well. So it's quite challenging, and I also run the website BigfootEncounters.com, which was Bobby Short's lifetime work, and so I'm just keeping that alive right now as we're trying to figure out how to replatform that. So.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I had 3 cardiac arrests lasting longer than 60 seconds when I was just under 1 year old. I don't remember the NDEs, but enough weird happened after it. It almost surely had to be.
Yeah.
Kathrine, you're up.
Hi, let me just gather my brain here because it's 4 o'clock in the morning in Athens, Greece. So I would like to say hello to everybody. My name is Kathrine, as you can see. I'm the founder of Oracle Whispers. I am a psychic trance medium. I also do channeling. I am a holistic healer. What else? I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I do past life regression. I've been doing this. I've been seeing things, doing this like every child, because everyone has gifts. So ever since I remember myself from the age of 11, I've been seeing things, experiencing things, and that's it. I think I'll add something else in, while we're talking.
No. Let me tell you, these they're very informal. The reason we love them so much is it's kind of easy just to fit yourself in wherever you feel you have something to say, and we like it that way.
Great.
Got some questions?
Well, I always like to know if you guys have ever, what was your most extreme or crazy experience with the paranormal? That's what I like to know. So you guys can go around again if you want. Because I got some crazy stuff, so it makes me feel better.
Well, Laura's been doing UFO stuff, so I can't wait to hear this story.
Well, the most intense, definitely UFO experience I had. I was 18 years old. It was 2001. I was driving on a 1-lane dirt road in Preble County, Ohio, which is very rural.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have anything to do, so we just drove on the back roads, and we pulled over to a soybean field. And I noticed in the sky there was a ball of light just dancing back and forth. And it was totally silent. It was very bizarre, and it shot just completely across the sky. And then it was followed about 15 or 20 seconds later by some kind of plane, which I'm assuming is like a jet fighter because it was really loud. I saw the same thing happen again, maybe a few minutes later, ball of light, and then saw it shot across the sky, followed by a plane. Out of nowhere, and within 10 minutes of that happening and me saying to my friends, oh my gosh, what was that? An unmarked car rolled up on us on the soybean field, which I can't express to you how rural it is. And I don't know anybody who's ever been a security guard for a soybean field before. Maybe that's a real job that exists, but they were definitely not the local police, because I unfortunately in my teenage years would drive around without a license, and I knew the cops around there, and it wasn't them for sure. This guy had an unmarked uniform, unmarked car, and he was really nice. He was very, very gentle with us. He didn't ask for ID or anything. He just said, you guys got to get out of here. Do not come back. And so we did. So I don't know if that's technically a Man in Black situation. I actually spoke to my friends who were there that night. Like 20 years later, we got together a month or two ago just to talk about it and see what they remembered. And they all remember getting kicked out. They remember the guy wearing different things, which is really interesting to me because I'm thinking that's a play on consciousness. My one friend said he was wearing like civilian clothes. I very distinctly remember him wearing like a cop uniform, but no badges. It was just unmarked. He had a side piece. He looked, it looked like he was wearing a Kevlar vest. But when I was speaking to my friends a few months ago, one of them told me that they had that same ball of light happen. They saw the same phenomenon when they were 12 or 13 years old. So just a few years before we saw it. He said he was at home and it was right before a thunderstorm and there was lightning in the sky and he saw this big ball of light dance back and forth and take off. So I'm guessing that guy is the actual UFO magnet between my little group of friends. I'm not sure. I've never seen the ball of light since, but that was definitely an experience. It was really interesting because I didn't even remember that it happened until probably 2017, 2018. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this thing happening. So maybe they did use some sort of like memory wipe or something like that. Oh. So that's definitely the most intense. I've seen other UFOs, but that's definitely the weirdest thing that's happened to me.
Yeah, at 18, I picked up my girlfriend from college to drive home for the weekend. And on the way, we had an hour and a half of missing time. And everything about my life changed within the next 30 days. So I get it.
Yeah.
Philip, you live in a very active location. And I know you got a ton of stuff to tell us. I'm glad you're here.
Well, our ghost real, yes. Our entities real, yes. I had a hard time believing and understanding a lot of the stuff that we live with and coincide with. And you know, one of the biggest misconceptions is that people would say, well, your house has to be very old to be haunted. It's not true at all. It's the land. When land is tainted through residual energy throughout time, it becomes affected in a way where some of the things are just not explainable. So we live in a home that's a modern day home that is inflicted by spirits that come and go. Some are good, some are bad. And we've took a lot of heat as a family that it's fake, and people try to debunk it. So what we did was we had 52 paranormal teams from around the entire world come here at different times and prove that what we're saying is real. And there is no definite explanation behind the cause and effect of why. We could only give assumptions of why certain things happen. But what we do know is that when we talk about spirits and ghosts and also aliens, there seems to be some kind of connection between the realms. Because we did a study and a test here years ago when we had two separate paranormal teams. One was in the basement and one was in the backyard. We live about on acre of land. And the team in the backyard was seeing something in the sky, and the team in the basement was getting ghostly activity. Now, this was happening at the same exact time, two different teams that don't know each other. Somehow is there correlate. When I said at the beginning of the show that we live in a multi-dimensional universe, we do. It's somehow we cross the veil, and we don't even know we're crossing the veil. And sometimes these entities are crossing over to our side of the veil. So it's kind of like if you have this out-of-body experience, you're going into their realm. And there's times where they invade your own space. And this is why we have time travelers. And this is why we have the Mandela effect of people remembering things a certain way. And other people say it never existed. It did exist, but just some people weren't there at that time of dimension to remember it that way. It's so fascinating. And the exciting part is this, is that we go on after this simple journey that we call life, right? Because it's very short. There's only 4 quarters to life, 0 to 20, 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 75. And most people in the life expectancy now is 76, 77 after COVID. So if you hit the 4th quarter, you're lucky. But after that, in my belief, and the way we live and what we've learned, is this is just a short fragment of time that we made up a window of our own existence. But yet the reality of who we truly are goes on beyond our comprehension. So that's the good news. And we're all messengers. Everyone on this platform tonight, I believe, is a messenger and a different experiencer who has multiple reasons to tell the world that certain things exist. And whether people believe or they don't believe, it's okay. It's those with the open mind that are meant to understand, and this time around, to get it. I have a lot of people that say, well, there's no such thing. Maybe in another lifetime, they were the experiencer. And in this lifetime, they're not meant to get it. It's okay. And this is what we do, we share our stories.
Bill, that's great. So I saw Julia down there. We were waving at Julia. She's here checking up on us, make sure we're treating you well. Karl, what you got going on?
Oh gosh, so since I have my feet in so many different topics. And you're saying that the strangest. I mean, I can talk about UFOs. I know in '75, our family had gone to a drive-in double feature. In case for those of the younger audience, that's where you pull a car into a parking lot and watch a movie on the screen.
Yeah.
But we had backed the family station wagon in to face the movie screen, and had blankets and pillows and stuff like that. So it was a good evening. Watched the first movie. I think I fell asleep, and then woke up for the towards the end of the second movie, and then we drove home. So it was really late. It was maybe 1 a.m. and my dad wasn't in the greatest of health, so I was unloading the station wagon. I was only 12 at the time, but I took one load inside the house, and then went to go back out there to get the next load, and I was all by myself, and it was just an eerie feeling. It felt like all the air had been. It was there was no sound whatsoever, and I'm talking. It was almost like you were in a sound chamber, and like the air was just so incredibly still, and I remember standing there thinking, what is going on? And there was a street light right at the end of our driveway, and I looked up into the sky, and there was something moving in the sky, not I want to say 500 feet above me, and that and it was triangular shaped, moved incredibly, totally silent, and it was not there was no sound, but on the underside there was actually almost some kind of dimensional design on the bottom, and it was just an odd design. So this is 1975, right? So, and it moved off silently, and I watched it, and the only light on it, because it was so late at night, was the glow from the street light that was kind of illuminating the underside of it. And once it moved past the street light, I couldn't see it, except that it was blotting out the stars. So I ran back in the house, and I said, Dad, you're not going to believe this. I said it was headed kind of going northeast to southwest. So we went back out into the backyard of the house to look at it, and and he could see that there was stars missing and kind of moving, disappearing as it passed over. And then he said, well, I don't know. He goes, well, maybe it was a balloon, and I was like, but it was huge. It was massive. I'm just telling you. And we, it wasn't until 2 years later, in May of 1977, I'm sitting in the movie theater in Star Wars. I actually had a little PTSD when the Star Destroyer came over the top, because there was resemblance to that in my mind, at least. But that was quite funny. But and then I'll just segue quickly into 1997 in March. I'm getting off work in Phoenix, and I look up in the sky, and I'm like, well, that's a little odd, And I didn't think anything of it. I looked at it, and I thought, well, maybe it's a plane flying information, but it was I was near the airport. I was about 5 miles north of the airport, which really was not an airspace that planes fly in. So I was looking, and I was like, I don't know, maybe it's military, maybe they're doing something, whatever. And I got in the car and I drove home. By the time I got home, everything was buzzing about the Phoenix lights. So anyway, so that was, I will pass the baton if you'd like.
No, it's good. Just tell them about your gigantic one in the cloud.
Yep.
I've seen a few weird things, but this was a very detailed, close UFO craft, and it was dark. It didn't have lights on it, but it was a dark, like black metal, and I only saw the underneath of it because a helicopter was shining its light on it, and the craft was hiding in a big cloud. Wow. And the underneath, it looked like a bunch of pipes intertwined with each other. That's all there was, but the pipes were so large they were as wide as the body of the helicopter. And I just thought that was so strange. I wasn't expecting to see that. and I drove under it. And as I drove under it, I didn't see the sky anymore. I just saw the craft. And then I don't remember that. My best friend doesn't remember any of it. So
How long was the missing time?
I don't remember driving home. I just remember waking up the next day, honestly. So,
She's had
Can I?
many missing
sorry.
time events, many of them. Go ahead, Laura.
I was going to jump in and say to Karl, I just read an article recently on people who've had contact at the drive-in movie theater. And I was wondering if it's a hitchhiker effect that you experienced.
Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, that was. I don't know. I can tell you that the first movie that the drive-in theater was the Apple Dumpling Gang. That's how old I am.
I'll try to post the link to the article so you can look it over. That's so fascinating.
But before I forget about it, all of you send links you want me to put in the description, and I will add them.
Okay.
Go ahead, Laura. Sorry, I interrupted.
I just wanted to validate Karl a little bit more. I've got a friend of mine. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and right outside of Cincinnati, there's a uranium refining factory called Fernald. And in 1985, a friend of mine lived out there. It's also a very rural area. And he went outside and he saw a giant craft just like that, just like floating over silently.
It was just huge and just moved slowly, just like that. I mean, it wasn't accelerating, but it was the quality of the air that just, like I said, it was just still and like there was no air. It was just a strange feeling. But
my friend he had missing time too. So did you have any missing time?
I didn't have missing time from that, but I have had missing time during Bigfoot encounters. So that's another story.
Not to ever bring up what is obvious to most people is all of these consciousness things are related. So Laura and I were coming home from dinner, and we were driving down the road, and I looked up because I saw a light through her sun's roof, and it was a triangle, and the road had curves to it, and the triangle stayed centered in the sunroof. So it was obviously following us, or it wouldn't have stayed in the center of the sunroof on that winding road. And a helicopter came out from a local military base, and it did this, turned around and took off. We made a U-turn, and it was gone. Kathrine, your turn.
Okay, now I haven't had those intense UFO experiences. I know I'm not from this earth, right? I'm from a past life regression. Earth never feels like home to me. So that's why I move from country to country and home to home. I've done about 35 moves in my life. So I've got, as a paranormal investigator, as a psychic, I've got a lot of experiences. But the one I'm going to discuss right now is my encounter with the Grim Reaper, with death. It's happened in about 1, 2, 3, 4 deaths in my family and people that I've known. I'll discuss the first one, but it's the same pattern every time. Every time someone's about to die, it is exactly the same pattern for me. So what happens is the day that somebody's going to die, I can smell death. It smells like rotten leaves. No one else can smell it, only me. I've asked people in the house, my relatives, my family that's been around at that time that it's happening. So the earth smells like rotten leaves. So, and then when it's time for someone to leave, I'll give you an example. My ex-mother-in-law, years and years ago, it was August here in Greece. So August in Greece is really warm. So I had everything open, and all of a sudden, I can smell that smell. I was asking my ex-husband. He couldn't smell it. I said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "No, I can't." And then there was a cold breeze. I was freezing. I was freezing to death, actually, right? So, and he was warm. And then I heard 3 knocks, like really intense knocks, which he never heard. And then all of a sudden the phone rings. He picks up the phone, says hello. Then hears his father saying, "Come over quickly." And well, Actually, no, he didn't hear that. He heard static, right? And then he goes, I don't know who it is. Take it. So I've taken the phone and I hear through the static, come over quickly. And I go to him, that was your dad. He goes, no, it was my dad. He would have spoken to me. I said, no, that was your father. And he said, come over quickly. So we ring back and his dad was sleeping and his mother was sleeping as well. And his mother wasn't very well. She had heart issues. So we said, his dad said, everything's fine, guys, go back to bed. I was still freezing at that point. Half an hour later, the phone rings again, but it was actually his dad saying, come over quickly, your mother has passed away.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so and that exactly the same pattern. And as Philip says, at that time when things happen, it's like we go into their dimension, they enter our dimension as well. So every time, like when my mum died, when my dad died, and a neighbor died, it was exactly the same pattern repeating itself. The cold breeze, the smell, the knocks, and then the death.
That is very interesting.
Wow.
It is.
Whenever I lost someone that I loved, I'd always have a dream. Someone in the dream would say, they're going to pass soon. Tell them you love them. Tell them this. So it every time, always a dream. So it was creepy, but also I appreciate it at the same time.
Yeah.
But like Laura, I've had a lot of dreams that they're usually warnings. It's never like you're going to hit the lottery next month. It's always like your tire's going to pop on the highway. But
Give me
There's
the
your
lottery
premonition.
numbers, darn it.
We can never see lottery numbers. Never. Never.
Do you all feel like this isn't your home? Earth is not your home?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Sometimes.
From the first time I met Lala, she was telling me, I'm not from here. This doesn't feel like home. And 3 out of 4 of you definitely feel that way. And Karl's a little bit on the edge of whether that's him or not. So both of us had regressions, and both of us have interesting pasts. I am from here, but I've had more than one life. And I saw some strange stuff a long, long time ago in one of those earliest lives. And then she's an alien from living in the atmosphere of the sun.
I wasn't even a human. I was some weird flame, of course. But no, ever since I was little, I didn't even understand why I was saying it. But I would say quite often, I just want to go home. I don't like it here. And my brain didn't compute, but I knew in my heart that's what I felt. So, but it's interesting now that I'm older and I meet other people that feel that too. And a lot of them are psychics that feel that way. Abductees or psychics, they all feel that way. So I don't know why. Do you think it's... I'm 70 years old, and all this came into my life at 65, even though I had experiences when I'm young. I am not the right person to ask. I'm just empathizing. I've had a bunch of experiencer friends, including Chris Bledsoe and Hitchhiker, followed me home. And after that, my life just became the paranormal phenomenon, just took over. But I want to recommend to anyone in the audience who's listening and others, there is a particular person who does regressions that the two of us have used. And it's not going to be, you're going to remember every ugly alien thing that happened to you. It's quantum, going back through time and learning about past lives and of your nature, where you come from. And that's Deb Shakti. And debshakti.com is a great place to go if you want that kind of reading, because it really is settling. It's calming, it's disturbing, it is helpful.
It is. It's really nice because I do past life regressions as well as a hypnotherapist, and every person's experience, it is unbelievable. It is unique. I recommend it. And it's just, you live as a psychic. I connect with that person at that time when they're doing their journey. It is immaculate for me. Absolutely. I recommend it for everyone to do it.
It is interesting.
Yeah, I had an out of body or astral or whatever you want to call it, and it was the most intense and moving experience of my adult life, as intense as the birth of my first child. It was that intense, and I was sitting in the commander's seat on Apollo 11, and I took the entire journey as if I was Neil Armstrong. It was unreal. I mean, I couldn't make all that up. And I knew where all the switches were and all this other stuff. And I later went and got diagrams and saw that I knew where the switches were. It was wild. People should try this because you're going to find out a lot of interesting stuff.
True.
I have a question. I and a couple of my friends have noticed that the activity, whether it's a cryptid, a spirit, or an alien, has really amped up quite a lot lately. Do you think that there's been a change, or a portal opened, or a veil is lifting? Because do you feel like there's a change also?
Yes.
Yeah.
Laura, what do you got for us?
It's so funny that you brought this up because I'm going to be speaking at a conference at the end of this month. And it's the topic I'm going to be giving a presentation on is called Extraterrestrials and the Mature Soul Shift. And it's all about the energy that we're experiencing right now, making way for some bigger energy that comes from like the creative energy that created the whole universe is gonna basically manifest in human form to remind people that we are part of the Tao. We're completely part of this cosmic experience, and every so often this energy comes back down. Some people say that when Christ was alive 2,000 years ago, he was a manifestation of the Tao energy alive on Earth. Same with Buddha and other big figures throughout time and history that made an impact on our spirituality as a human species. But I think we're going to really see intensity between 2025 and 2027. I think by 2027, and I know that's a little bit far off from now, but I think that we are going to be speaking about spirituality in completely different terms than we are now. And I think that we have the potential for every person who wants to make contact we're going to be living in a spiritual atmosphere where we're able to do that through our dreams or meditation or whichever way. It's going to be so easy. And there's a lot of stigma, I believe, that's going to fall around. I mean, just look at since 2017 in UFOs, we're actually having congressional hearings. So I think the proof is there. Like, we're already shifting. It's already happening. We're already having different conversations about it. So that's my prediction.
Well, yeah, it's
When
not like
the government comes out with all of these spheres all over the world and shows us the craft that have showed up over naval vessels, and now we've got unknown objects showing up over Air Force bases inside the United States, and everyone hears about it. It really is difficult to understand why the government doesn't talk to us. It's kind of odd. Well, Philip, you and Julia, you have so many different experiences. Take it away and talk to us for a bit.
I had an encounter, an abduction, in July 2007, and it's important in a way where I've learned so much. We were living in another part of Eastern Pennsylvania, and it was about 2:00 in the morning, and I seen these three beings. I was in that half sleep and half up stage, materialized right through the wall, as if the wall and the window didn't exist. The atoms and particles, what everything's made of, does not exist. They could just go through it. They were very tall, and they were gray, and they had big eyes. And I remember jumping up in fright, thinking it's a nightmare, it's a tremor, something's happening to me. And I was turned around like they lifted me as if I had no weight to me. And my wife, I remember, but she don't remember, she leaned up and she was like frozen, and I couldn't control any part of my body. It's as if the part of my brain that controls the movement it wasn't there anymore for me. I could just see. I couldn't fight back. I couldn't do anything. I could just watch. And I remember something being put into my left eardrum, some kind of a liquid. And I felt this thing. The fingertips were very silky and leathery. And they put some type of a water-soluble thing through my eardrum. Now, I wake up the next morning asking my wife, what happened? She goes, what are you talking about? I says, I don't know. I guess it was a nightmare. Something was wrong. I could have sworn the most stupidest thing happened to me. And I dismissed it. Well, here's where it gets crazy. So I thought it was a dream state because that's what they can do. I was in sales, and I went to New Jersey to work, and I remember I was doing telesales, and I'm on the phone, and I had the telephone, the corded phone next to my left eardrum, and I hear ringing. And the ringing was vibrating. And I take the phone away, and then I put it back, and it was vibrating again. So I'm thinking maybe it's something weird with me. So the rest of the day, I just held the phone to my right eardrum. So that the weekend comes by, and I remember we had a lot of friends in the neighborhood, and there was one motorcycle guy who goes, hey, what's going on? I was like, oh, not much. He goes, did you hear about the UFO sighting in eastern Pennsylvania? I'm like, no. What do you mean? He's like, yeah, man, there was a UFO way above us. I'm like, no. Well, ironically, that week hits the papers. UFO sighting in Pennsylvania at the exact time that this happened to me. And I have the article. And I'm like, this is impossible. And then a few days later, I had to move a mattress out of my son's room. And all of a sudden, I can't lift the mattress because I'm getting electric shocks through my fingers. To this day, and that's 2007, I can't lift the mattress. I get these electrical shocks. But what did happen to me? What did happen to me was some form of a download, of a knowledge, of an awareness. And this is the way I understand it. Are they a threat to what I've encountered? No, it's actually some of us are walking GPS. In a way where we're kind of like the pinpoints around the earth. And when I talked about on the beginning of this show, and I'll stick to it, about us being multidimensional, here was the download that came years later, is that take 100 pieces of loose leaf paper. Each paper, draw a window. Each window, draw a star. Put it around a wall, around your whole room. And here's how it was explained to me. When we say we die, which there is no death, but when we say we die in the physical realm, the body decays, you go to the next window. But you go to the next window that you were pre-selected to do before you came here into the existence in this realm to begin with. So it's kind of like you wrote out the soul contract and they're watching everything. And when you get there, it's kind of like you don't go backwards. It's like you're living that part of life. You're existing because you keep going. You don't end. We don't end. We're infinite beings. That's what they were trying to show me. At 14 years old in Staten Island, New York, just to backtrack a little bit, it was a beautiful summer day, and the neighborhood was filled with kids, baseball. We're all having a great time, and I had to run home for something. I had to get something, and I was stopped in the middle of the street, frozen. And I was 14 years old, and my friends were like, you got to move. This car's trying to pass. And here's what happened. A voice comes through and says, Philip, are you having a good time in your life? And somehow through a form of telepathy, I said, yes. Why? Now, this being was very distinct voice and very intelligent, but not a human voice. And the being says, good, because when your life journey ends, this is where you will wind up. And I was released.
Wow.
and I could move out of the way of the cars. And what the being was trying to say to me was this. The multidimensional world they're trying to explain to me is that we try to narrow it down through our consciousness of we have an understanding of everything when we don't have an understanding of a fragment of anything. We don't. It's not up until you have the out-of-body experience and that cross connection with these beings that you're trying to say, hey, when you leave, and I says, well, am I going to go back to that family at that time? Because that's impossible, but it's not. And here's what they said. Draw a circle and keep drawing circles outside the circle and don't stop. Each circle is another dimension of time, as time is the fragment that you've made up through a form of your reality, which you have created. You exist only because you think you exist. That was my encounter.
That's amazing. That's a good one, Philip. Yeah, so I've had downloads most of my adult life, beginning from the time I had the hour and a half of a missing time. And all the downloads taught me something technical that I turned into something practical my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So a von Neumann probe, the von Neumann probe is a self-replicating artificial intelligence. So it goes to a new solar system, finds a bunch of asteroids, gets all the metals it needs, builds a new copy of itself or 100 or whatever, and goes on, moves on while it distributes the new probes. And that way they populate the entire galaxy. It's an automatic, a robot takeover or visitation all across the universe. And there's no bother of time to them because these machines last a long time. So I don't think we are von Neumann probes. I mean, I understand it. I mean, I just don't feel it. I mean, I feel that we are consciousness in soul form that dropped into this physical form because we were supposed to be in it for a while to have some experiences or for whatever. And it's just, it's very interesting. Karl, what you got?
Oh gosh, it's very interesting. So I approach everything from really a scientific perspective. So when I encountered, things as a child, or when things happened to me, then I'd go back and look and think, how could this have happened? But there was empirical proof in a lot of things, especially some of the vivid dreams I have. There was things that there was absolutely no way that I would know. My grandfather who died in 1959, being at his funeral and noticing exactly how things were laid out and what, the flowers and even actually waking up from that vivid dream and actually having the smell of flowers on my clothes.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and it wasn't just me experiencing that. I immediately knew what had happened, and I went and I had my grandmother smell and I had my mom smell, and it was, and they were like, "Whoa, did you bring some flowers in your room?" Or, but they could smell it as well on me, which, when you're just asleep in your room, so from a scientific perspective, you have to look at stuff like that and kind of go, how is that possible? Is that, an overlay? Are we just, are we that close? Are we, in some of these vivid dreams I've had too, where 2 weeks is a typical timeline, but if I have a vivid dream where there's been an accident or a tragedy or some event, it would be 2 weeks, and just like you were saying, you can't see the lottery numbers. I started witnessing plane crashes, but I couldn't see any of the logos on the tails of the airplanes, which was always interesting. But I could describe the area that it crashed, exactly what happened. And the first one I had of those was back in 1987 in August of or late July or very early August of 87, and I was flying to Chicago on business actually at that time, and like in a week, and I thought, oh, I'm just having this, but it was so vivid. This plane crashed right on, just short of this freeway, and parts of it strewed across this freeway, and it was horrible. And and I thought, it's just anxiety, right? It was the first premonition dream like that I had that I recall, at least. And then I flew to Chicago. I flew back, no issues whatsoever, right? And I get home, and 2 days later, I find out that a good friend of mine was on flight 255 out of Detroit.
Yes.
That killed everyone except for a little girl. And then when they showed the footage of that, I collapsed, because it was exactly what I had seen and experienced in the dream, where I was a witness, but outside the plane, right? And then those recurrences happened for years, all the way up until 96, when I had a dream about the Sioux City airplane crash that in Sioux City, Iowa, where the plane cartwheeled when it landed.
Yeah.
I ended up, and I remember coming through kind of drifting through a cornfield towards the wreckage, and seeing a teddy bear that was just smoldering, and I cried, and I woke. Every time I'd had one of these, I'd write them all down, because the details and everything, and it was too much, when it actually happened, and I kind of said to myself, boy, I don't want to see these anymore. But I saw every major plane crash. I mean, even the smaller commuter planes and everything else, from 87 until 96.
What a burden.
And I kind of said, I don't want to see this anymore, right? And then I didn't.
Right.
And then 9/11 happened, and then I felt guilt, because obviously, even though I wouldn't have maybe seen the tail, the identification on the airplanes, I certainly knew, I always could see the area and whatever, and I could see that. So that was something. But the last one I've had was I had this. It looked like, to me, maybe somewhere in Denver. There were some pine trees, but a lot of buildings. But there was so much water that kind of rushed in and took out buildings and stuff. I thought that it was maybe like a dam had burst or something. And 2 weeks later, that's when the Fukushima disaster happened in Japan. And when I saw and at first I thought, well, no, that's not a match.
Right.
But then when I saw the footage, I was, it's up in northern Japan, and of course that's a much more temperate climate there. So
I was going to say that particular plane crash you said was your last one in 96. I dreamed about being in the cockpit, where the guy who had lost all controls guided the airframe down by manipulating the speed of the engines so he could fly it in and nearly land it flat. And he saved half the passengers on the airplane. I still dream about that crash. I mean, it's just like I'm there. I could see him manipulating these controls and bringing it down. It's pretty amazing. I want to thank Terrence B., who, for those of you who were here at the beginning, B is a friend of ours, and he made our intro video. So I really wanted to thank him. Guess who's next?
Me.
You. I know you have some stories.
Okay. Well, I'm listening to all you guys. I believe what Philip said as well. Like, now, what's been happening to me personally, after COVID hit, right? A lot of people stayed home. Okay. We had the lockdown, so people were more relaxed. They were more open to receiving information and downloading. So a lot of people got a big download at that point. And after that, it sort of started hitting on their health. Like, to me personally, when I get a big download, after a while, I start having anxiety attacks and panic attacks. I'm so open that when I go out for dinner or go to the supermarket, I can feel whatever is going on at that point with everybody, or whatever's going on in the building I'm in, or if somebody's having a discussion and they're not feeling well, I can hear it, I can feel it in my soul. So and my daughters are exactly the same. All my kids, actually, all 5 of my kids are very psychic, and each one has a gift. So everybody's gifted. Don't forget our gifts, and our psychic gifts and our spiritual gifts. Our psychic gifts are imprinted in our DNA from the day that we are born. Our spiritual gifts, they come from the day we are born. The other ones are imprinted. So they're imprinted through different lives that we've lived on this earth, or different planets that we lived on. So we carry them, and each time we carry them in each life, they get stronger. Sometimes they go to sleep. I said bed. Sorry, they go to sleep. So and then when the awakening is happening to each individual, they come so intense that it hits our physical body in different aspects, and makes us, some people get sick, some people suffer with panic attacks, mental issues, if that all makes sense what I'm saying right now. And I'm saying too many things and putting too many things
keep
in.
going. This is great.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, to me personally, when I get downloads, because I've been getting a lot of downloads lately, especially I've been getting them for the past 2 years. Something has shifted from 2022 up to 2024.
Yeah.
And it's so intense that I am suffering. I'm trying to calm myself down because I'm suffering with panic attacks and anxiety attacks. I've gone to, doctors, and they said, you've got nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. You know what I mean? So I know it's got to do with energy. It's got to do with the downloading. It's got to do with something else from another dimension that's like coming through and saying, you guys need to awake. You guys need to see things from another perspective.
Right.
You guys need to open up. You guys need to stop thinking, like every day about technology, what you're going to eat, what you're going to do. We are suppressing everything inside us. So I think that's backlashing. And that's why all this is happening. That's why you've got a lot of people at the moment that are suffering with mental issues and emotional issues for no reason. Because
we have a teenager in our life, and we're interacting with the local school system, and missing 2 years of school for COVID has destroyed these kids emotionally. It's really rough.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
So I wanted to tell you that I retired from the faculty at Virginia Tech when it was clear that we were going to be closed for a year or longer, and because of COVID. So I moved away and got a home and sat in my house for 2 years waiting on a vaccine to come. Got depressed. My mother passed away, and I had experiences, triangle of orbs in my front yard, craft in my backyard, white orb in my living room, a teenage boy appearing across my room and walking to my bed, looking at me in the eye intently, trying to read what I am, and then disappearing. And then she read my mother for me after she passed. And it was a great comfort because I knew my mother continued and that she could contact her. And then we began exploring all this weird stuff. The activity ramped up through the roof, and now we're living together. So there was negative with COVID and all that depression, but positive came out of it for the two of us. So I'm back to doing science and other things. So Karl, I just want to tell you that there's a lot of science stuff in all of this. It's really pretty amazing. So we're discovering, I'll give you an example. We're discovering, my daughter's a neuroscientist and a neurologist, a really top-notch one at NIH. Anyway, so we're discovering that our brains, patiently worked with, have enduring neuroplasticity. That means they can learn to function as a slightly different computer with a different program and then translate it to what I am certain, and I'm sure all of you are too, our non-local consciousness, and we can learn to do new things. So people that go after remote viewing and psychic reading and out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming, all this stuff, all they need to do is be persistent. I can tell you from experience that persistence is all that's required, and then give up and believe. I had so much stuff happen. There was no way I could not believe, so that was helpful.
Same here.
Exactly. Yeah, you touched me, Karl, because I am a scientist. I have a PhD in applied mathematics and engineering and physics from Brown University, and I taught on the faculty, and all of this stuff just ended that career, and here I am doing science for a different reason. It's pretty amazing.
I would argue for the best reason of all, which is to get to the bottom of this. You know, if we could one day measure consciousness, that's huge. That's amazing. And
let me tell you my crazy dream and what I'm wasting for spending all my time on. So for us to marry consciousness to our science of the universe, there has to be a connection, and the connection will show up through thermodynamics. So if I can figure out the thermodynamic coupling of our consciousness to the universe in some mathematically descriptive way, we are on our way. And so, but I also believe that I had a very, very, very famous physicist. 3 of his students won Nobel Prizes. And he taught me that the universe was it from bit. And that means the universe is actually built on information bits, which are the foundation of consciousness. He believed that consciousness was fundamental to everything. And he believed in this. And I didn't believe him till long after he had passed. And now I'm all about it. It's just kind of amazing. So,
yay, physicists.
Go ahead. Sorry. What'd you say?
I said, yay, physicists. My late father-in-law was a brilliant physicist who held, I think, 16 patents. If you've ever used a Genie machine, I think that's dated, Genie machine ATM.
No, I know
That's
that.
the technology.
Yeah, so the physicist in question, anybody who's in physics knows John Archibald Wheeler. And his students were Richard Feynman and the guy that did the gravitational observatory, Kip Thorne. You get the idea. And his students were just amazing. A third of his students, another one of his many students, invented quantum information and named the zeros and ones in quantum qubits. I mean, this guy was amazing. And it was the luckiest happenstance ever. He retired into a retirement community where someone I knew worked was a nurse there and knew I was interested in him and introduced me. And I got to know him really well over about 12 years. 12, maybe 15, but I think it was 12 after I rethink it. And, you know, he signed all my books and gave me a lot of time. And so he had a big impact on me, even though I was getting toward the end of that career, ready to go teach university. It was amazing. Okay, Laura, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
You can get in touch with me through my Facebook page, which is, you can look it up, Citizen Observers for UFO Transparency. Our email is up there. And like I said, we're hopefully going to be rolling out a website by June, hopefully in time for voting season, because I think that there are a lot of legislators out there who have no idea how important this issue is to people. And I called Mitch McConnell's office right before the hearings, and I asked the intern at the desk, like, have you gotten a lot of calls about the hearings? And she said, we've been blown up all day. So the interest is there. We just need to put the pieces together, and we can absolutely start a citizens movement geared toward UFO transparency.
I just want people to be realistic. Nothing is going to happen until after the election. Okay,
You know what? That would be amazing. I just got to say, if either candidate decided to be the UFO president, that would be phenomenal. I think it's not outside the realm of possibility for it to be dangled during campaign season.
I think they still fear the stigma might hurt them at the polls. I feel it in my bones. Philip, how can people get in touch with you? And Julia?
You know, before I say that really quick, I want to say something, Laura. I believe that there should be a world movement. If enough of us were to go to the Capitol, the White House, and demand the truth, that we're not alone, 1 million of us, 2 million of us, because the people have a right to know what the government has been hiding and is always hidden. Movements in time change things. And I believe a movement should be started, because I will tell you verbatim, those big wigs in that Pentagon, they're not going to come clean. You and I both know that. They're not going to come clean. They're going to dismiss and brush off the people who come forward, our pilots, our people who work for military, and say, well, they have other problems, so that what they're telling you is not the truth. No, it is not a glitch in the screen. It is not make-believe. Don't make us look like a bunch of idiots. But if there's a movement of people, that movement and that march will change everything throughout time, because we are demanding the truth. Amen to that. Philip and Julia Siracusa, we own Horsefly Chronicles World of Psychics. You can find us on Horsefly Chronicles Radio every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, and Facebook and all social media platforms. And I'm for a movement in time. Let's change it, because we know they're not going to do anything. There's always going to be one of them kicking that can saying that we don't know what we're talking about. Always.
Yes. The Congress put together Arrow, put Sean Kirkpatrick in front of it, and that report he wrote was worse than what I wrote when I was in kindergarten. It was awful. What can I say? Oh, Karl, go ahead. Tell us how people can get in touch with you.
So I've written a lot of blogs out online on ghosthuntingtheories.com. A good friend of mine runs that website, and she was kind enough to host some of my Sasquatch investigations. And if you read through those, you'll see how I've took a scientific approach towards everything, and trying to understand, who they are, what they are, and more recently why they are, which is another topic. But and also out on bigfootencounters.com. Like I said, I don't have any of my personal stories out there, or you could just reach out to me through Facebook as well. I think I'm the only Karl Sup on the planet. So
that's terrific. Kathrine, how do people get in touch with you?
Before I say that, I would agree with Philip. They've been leading us blindfolded everywhere, not worldwide, not just in America, in Europe, everywhere. With the eclipse, they activated the CERN experiment. They didn't discuss it. They didn't say anything about it. They were saying they were going to do it, and then they said they didn't do it. So it is so confusing, whatever's happening. And they've just got us blindfolded. They're just throwing, ash in the eyes, I would say. But our children, I've noticed a lot of children are opening up even more and awakening even more and having more contact with other dimensions. I've got a very vivid example of my children, and I think a lot of people, their children are opening up, and I would recommend that parents need to help and guide their children with that, and help them, and not take them.
Good advice.
Yeah, and not take them, not just sort of scold them and tell them, oh, what you're saying is rubbish, blah, blah, blah. Help your children, because our children is the future.
Absolutely.
So if people want to find me, they'll find me on my Facebook page, or as in Kathrine Sorilos, or Oracle Whispers by Kathrine Sorilos, and all my platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's Oracle Whispers. So that's how people can reach out and find me.
Great. So I would really like in the group chat that Lala set up for all of you to send us links, and I will put it in the description of these videos wherever they are, so people can later on who watch it and are interested can find you on a link. And I really can't begin to tell you how much we appreciate the four of you giving us your time and helping us learn, because we're learners. We're lifelong learners, and we have lots of people in the audience who will. And a year from now, somebody else will come along and see this video and be interested. And we want to thank you for being here. It's been our pleasure.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Goodbye,
My
everybody.
pleasure.
Guys,
Thank you.
you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.